Hello, everybody. This is our chart reading group for the Modern Astrology Facebook group. And this month we're looking at the chart of Gianna, one of our members. Hello, everybody. Welcome.
Hi.
Nice.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
We're back.
Yeah, we're live. Okay. Well, just a quick breakdown of this chart here. Gianna is a Gemini. She has a Cancer moon and she has a Virgo ascendant. When we look at the sign modalities, we have a lot of energy going into cardinal and mutable, and we don't have much going into fixed at all. So we're a bit short on fixed, but we're very, very strong in those other areas too. When we look at the sign elements, we see fire is a little low, but all the others are pretty much balanced. Earth, air, and water, they're all within 1 point of each other, give or take. And in terms of house modalities, we have a very strong succeedant energy. And we also have some strong angular energy, and we're sort of a bit light and cadent energy as well. And it's interesting because your house modalities in many ways fill in the gaps for your sign modalities. One of the things I always talk about, or always look for when I'm looking at charts, I love the idea that as souls, before we incarnate, we choose what we want to bring into this life. We choose the experiences that we want to have. I love the idea of that. And so I guess one of the patterns you fall into as an esoteric astrologer is you're always looking for the curated points on a chart. You know, the bits that we sat down and we thought, yeah, I want more of this, I want less of that. I want a bit of this energy, but I don't want that, you know, this part of that energy that comes with it and stuff like that. When I look at this chart, I see a lot of that. We've got a lot of really interesting placements and points. We've got some beautiful chart patterns all here working, and again, it feels like a well-oiled machine in a lot of regards. You know, everything's built with purpose and intention and flow, and it really, really settles nicely with that cardinal mutable energy, somebody who's constantly moving, but moving with purpose and direction. That's the energy, that's the feeling that I get from the chart. What about anybody else? That chart's been up for a couple of days in the Facebook group. Does anybody have a sort of a first impression that they draw from this chart?
I was thinking exactly. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna
No,
say
go ahead.
she's got a lot of patterns, like 3 rectangles, 1 grand trine in
Yep.
earth signs.
Yep.
So I feel like I don't really know how to say it. It's a lot of good energy, but I'm like, it also feels like it's a lot of psychic energy almost in a way too.
Yeah, yeah. And just to clarify that, where are you picking up that on the chart?
Just by looking at where the squares are, like not squares, the rectangles.
Yeah.
So there's 3 of them, but they're all just pretty much lined up with each other. And I was trying to look a little more into that. But I think the thing that gets me the most is the grand trine.
Yeah.
Or I guess you would call it a grand earth trine, but I'm not really sure where that would go because I haven't got a chance to look at the chart as well as probably as y'all did. I actually started looking at it today.
I think we're in the same boat there too. And I think, you know, during this whole process, we're going to unravel that in a whole bunch of different ways. You know, we've all got different ways of looking at the charts. So, but I agree with what you're saying. And that's, I guess, what I meant when I said there's a lot of curated energy on this chart. You know, it's built, it's purpose driven in a way. You know what I mean? It's designed to work. There's utility in it, which I really like. I find those charts really exciting to work with. Did anybody else have any thoughts or impressions, should I say?
So I was saying what you were saying about this person that keeps moving. So I see a person who probably likes to start a lot of different projects, but they know when it's time to move on. They don't stay there for a long time. They continue to move on. And also with the hemispheres and quadrants, it seems like maybe the person is driven by external forces instead of internal forces, and maybe more for people. Like they rather they care a lot about what other people may think, but very logical, very reliable, and emotional as well, but probably have a lot of confusion between a lot of struggle between the logic and the emotions, because I see the earth and the water and the air, and maybe a thinker may overthink, but definitely is not too stubborn. Like this person knows how to probably very get in where I fit in. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's easy to adaptable.
I think you really nailed that actually, and you you verbalized something, you packaged something up really nicely, driven by external forces. We've got this cardinal and this mutable energy that's overwhelming and powerful in many regards, but we've got these succedent placements, that 11th house up there, and that 5th house, there's external forces, there's friends, groups, affiliations, and then down in the 5th house, I mean, in many ways, art is a response to that. You know what I mean? It's an interpretation. It's our own critique of what we're experiencing. So we've got this beautiful water energy up there in the 11th house. And then we've got this 5th house, this Capricorn energy that kicks into gear and drives once that interpretation's come. And I like the way that you packaged that up, because I agree. I think once she's analyzed and found that thing. This is without talking to you at all, Gianna. I could be completely off track here, but once she's found the core of what she's looking for, she moves on. She takes those gifts with her. So that's what I'm seeing on the chart. You package it beautifully, Crystal. Okay, all right, cool.
Thank you.
Cool. What else? What else have we got? Anybody else have any other thoughts?
I think she should in her career.
Sorry?
Oh, I'm sorry, Michael. Go ahead.
I was just going to say Mercury is the chart ruler because her ascendant is in Virgo. And I also see where you were talking about the rectangles. They're pointing to Mercury, and Mercury is in the 9th house. And the 9th house is the house of spirituality and all the things that we're doing right here, I believe. And that being her chart ruler, and in the patterns, the way that they are, it looks like her community, she might be psychic. That's kind of where I'm going with that. So I kind of see that. So I think that's building off of what Antoinette said earlier too. And what you said, Rosie, about the rectangles. They give me the idea that there's, that she has, she might have, like, they're called mystic rectangles, correct? And don't they indicate like maybe a psychic nature of sorts?
For sure.
So that's what I see. The Mercury is the chart ruler. So I was just building off of that.
Well, just adding on to what you're saying, this is a locomotive chart that's being pulled by Pluto down there in the 3rd house, and they're in opposition to one another. You know what, again, and in a way, it's a reiteration of that pattern between the 11th house and the 5th house. And the more I look at her chart, the more I look at those mystic rectangles and things like that, the more I see that whatever's impelling Gianna, whatever's pulling her forward, whatever's driving her, it's not points on the chart, it's middle ground. There's spaces in between everything. She's looking for something. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
She's looking for those points within the opposition, those meeting points, those fusion points where energy coalesces, I guess. So, and that I think too, is probably the territory of the psychic, and again, those oppositions we're talking about to the 11th and the 5th house, from the 9th house down to the 3rd house, they're the oppositions within that mystic rectangle.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Razi? Did you have something?
Oh, I was going to ask about her sun in Gemini, because it's in the 10th house. 10th house is more like about career. So I was wondering if she kind of shined at her job or her chosen profession.
I answer?
Yes.
Say it again.
I said, should I answer?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I actually it's interesting, like how Damien mentioned the like looking for meaning and finding meaning and the spirituality behind it, because I actually do excel pretty. I mean, I've been in a position at my job, very fortunate. I work in a finance field during the day and I'm being continuously elevated, but it's so opposite from my actual, like, I feel like my truth, my authenticity. So it's like my professional life, like this profession of my finance career is like exceeding, but it's so opposite from what I'm interested in and what I want to do. So yeah, I had a lot of luck and I wouldn't say luck. I have a lot of I have a lot of positive influence and appreciation in my professional life, but it's not necessarily the profession that I want to continue with.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Um, with that Gemini stuff, are you interested in like driving or CDLs or anything?
No,
Okay.
my ex, no.
My sister has the same placement and she drives trucks and stuff. So I was just wondering about that. Okay, just jumping out there.
It has and manifested in my life and other individuals, but not for me.
Got you. Yeah, okay.
So the sun is our ego, and the moon. So the sun is who we show up as, like our ego, and then the moon is our mind. So who we are on a deeper level. So the sun in your 10th house in Gemini. Gemini is an air sign, so it's all about communication, and you're able to. I know somebody said you can adapt easily. That's something that's a Gemini trait, being able to have kind of two faces, so to speak. Maybe two personalities. Whoever you're dealing with, you can kind of relate to them in a sense. And so what you were just saying, you've got the 11th house and you've got the moon and the Chiron, and you have the Jupiter, which is the fortunate planet, which you were alluding towards. You had some fortunate placements, which I see also. But the Chiron in the 11th house is the wounded healer. So maybe that's where it's, I guess I'm trying to say, I mean, obviously you define what you're doing now is your career, is how you're like paying the bills, keeping the lights on. And the career that you would like to do, it's kind of scary. And that's where Chiron's right there, right next to the moon, but Jupiter's right there close to the sun. So you're going to have good fortune in whatever you do. And the North Node being in the 6th house, that's the house of routines, and it's pushing, like Damien said, it's a locomotive chart and it's all pushing, and it's pushing you to step out of your comfort zone eventually, you know what I mean? And go for your dreams is what I see.
I think the Pluto transit into Aquarius affecting my North Node is really actually pushing me to like almost like repel what my current profession is and it's bringing transformation to the daily responsibilities that I have and that I'm doing.
And now's the time for
Making
that,
me
because
very uncomfortable in this job.
well, yeah, because you're having to step out of your comfort zone, and it's scary. But now's the time. I mean, look at 2024 into 2025. I mean, now is when you can reach all the people that will help propel you forward. You know what I mean? What about Mars in the 7th house? Anybody want to talk about that? Of Aries? Oh, no, that's not Aries. That's Pisces, isn't it? The last degrees. Oh, 27
Yeah,
degrees.
it's like in the last three of these.
Talk about that.
I was gonna say, if you do have a partner, it seems like they are very straightforward in what they want, but I don't think they know exactly what they want because of that Mars and Pisces. Mars is not happy in water signs outside of Scorpio. If you don't have a lover, I think there's probably one that's hanging around that probably doesn't know how to put themselves forward.
Very interesting.
It's interesting you say that actually too, because for me, especially when I look at romantic partnerships, I look at the seventh and the eighth together, and you've got Venus in Aries in the eighth house, and they mirror each other in a lot of ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I always
Just
look at the fifth and the seventh because
yeah,
one of my courses that I had taken, they also associate the fifth with lovers that
yeah.
aren't partner related.
Mm.
So it's like there's somebody there in the seventh house, which also could mean that you're very assertive when it comes to things that are, how you say, art related, you know, like the arts, also spirituality because it's Pisces. But if it was like more like towards it being a lover, you could also be attracted to people who might be older than you because of Saturn. Because Saturn generally symbolizes older individuals, typically older males. But with Uranus and Neptune also being there, you might prefer somebody who is more on the softer side, the softer I don't want to say feminine. I don't really know the best word to use for that. But
Romantic.
Passive.
say it again. Say it again, I missed it.
Romantic.
Romantic, thank you.
Romantic.
Okay, thank you. So like kind of more on the romantic and spontaneous because of Neptune and Uranus being in the fifth house.
Mm-hmm. True that. Or maybe you attract people who are deceptive. And maybe you don't always see things for what they are. Like you might only see what you want to see and not the truth in relationships.
True.
Very, very true. I'm like trying not to spill the beans on everything.
Yeah. I know that Mars usually in the water sign is anger too. Like because Mars doesn't like to be in water. So you have ups and downs, especially with Pisces with both of the fishes going both ways. So it's probably hectic in relationships. And maybe the person is selfish and compassionate one minute and detached the next, or it could be very compassionate but very passionate as well. Driven. That's what I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, that sounds
I'm gonna
great.
write that.
Totally.
My divorce process started when Saturn entered Pisces in last year. So if that gives
Dang,
you an
wow.
idea.
Yep.
Yes, it's been 13 years of volatile partnership.
Good for you. Good for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can see that with that Saturn, you take relationships, love relationships or romance, you take it very seriously. But at the same time, you want somebody who is, you want to marry somebody who is romantic, who has been your lover, you know, because it's the Neptune is in the fifth house, but Saturn is like throwing water on the romance of Neptune. But and somebody that you work with, like it, it shows that in your everyday routine and you work, you're also very creative, and that you love what you do, or you should work in something that you love, or that's like your hobby. What I found interesting was when you said, because I wondered if you worked in finance, because you have Mercury, which is the chart rule and the rule of your sun in Taurus, and Taurus is money. So like you're thinking about money, or you're always making calculations, very mathematical, so I linked what you said to what I was seeing in the chat. That's interesting. And then Venus, which is the ruler of Mercury in Taurus, is in the house of other people's money and finances again, and shows that you might be very, you're pioneering female in that area, and you don't show yourself too much, but you're like the power behind what goes on. But at the same time, there is something that you want to do. I think you might be interested in, sure, everything ninth house, like spirituality or religion, but there's something that has to do with the beliefs of the family or the mother, or there's something to heal. And also you might write. I think you have there's something about writing or communicating or learning or teaching, that you have a thirst to gather information and then to transform it or alchemize it in some way. But you're definitely, like, you might like to read crime stories, you know, because with we call it Scorpio in the third house is like, I like to read deep and profound things, or Agatha Christie's kind of no.
Controversy.
Yeah, like, you know, and think the mind, because Pluto in the third house, I lived it for 20 years. It's like, it's kind of makes you think about the other life too much. Like, so maybe you're thinking about that all the time. Your thoughts are very deep, and it's complicated. So, and one more thing I did see that I found very interesting, that all your personal planets are on the top.
That's
You know, like
interesting.
wanting to come out and be seen, because in the past life, the South Node is in the 12th house. So it's like God said, you know what, I'm going to put you high up there now so that you can be seen, because at some point, maybe you were not seen. And that's what I saw. Basically, that Jupiter, you're going to heal the emotions or something in the family. And personal planets is like, I need to be out into the world. That's what I saw.
With the Mercury and Sun and Venus all up at, and Mars, and they're all at the top like that, and they're just they're feeding off of each other and giving each other strength.
Yes, all together, like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody's, and then there is and then there's the moon in Cancer, so that gives it, with the 5th house and 11th house are the top houses to look at, you know, so it must have been something to do with your creativity and groups, and then working with groups. And so you're going to be enjoying working with groups now, because you have to work with groups. That's what you come to do, to share. In a way, it's like saying, share your creativity with others. Don't keep it for yourself like you did in the 12th house past life. Now it's time to go out. And so it makes sense that God said, let's put her sun way up in the top so she can speak or talk or sing or work with the mind, you know. But definitely there is a push to be seen, and it's necessary for you to have, you know, this confidence. And I like that the ruler, the chart ruler, is at the same degree as the ascendant, as the sun. So it's like, it's a square, but it's like, you got to do it, you know, anyway. But it's not like a square. It's like a trine inside of a square. And how do you explain that, Damian?
Sorry.
But the ascendant is at 6 degrees, and so is her sun.
Yeah. And they're squaring
in
each
those
other.
signs that are ruled by Mercury.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. It is interesting. I was just looking at, reflecting on something you said earlier. What you said about writing. You know, I definitely saw that when I was looking at the chart this morning. There's an ability to take all of these personal experiences and pragmatize and manifest them down there in the 5th house. So, and that 5th house, what's happening in the 5th house is part of that mystic rectangle. That's all one circuit. They're all fueling each other. They're all contradicting. They're all fighting each other. I like what you said about the 11th house as well, because you've got Jupiter, which is exalted and it loves to be in Cancer. We've got the moon, which is the ruler of Cancer, and then we've got pain, the expectation of pain, sitting right in the middle of them. And I think it's interesting to explore. Everybody has their own different relationship with pain. You know what I mean, or the expectation of pain. And in a way, pain is part of the fuel that drives this machine, I think. You may have a more positive relationship or a less detrimental relationship with pain, especially when you've got two very strong, very enabled planets sitting there in the 11th house on either side of your Chiron. I wonder if 13 years of volatile marriage somehow is connected to that pattern right there. And I wonder if too, this is me projecting my own stuff, but when you're with a volatile partner, you look at things differently. When I was, I had a partner who cheated a long time ago, and what that did was it made me very, very suspicious, but also very, very good at picking out lies, right down to a body language level. And exploring people's intentions and the words that they said and things like that. They're all the self-defense tools that you learn in order to exist in survival mode, I guess. So I wonder if this, like I said, that's possibly me projecting my own stuff there too. But I see pain somehow, the expectation of pain with Chiron up there, and the belief of growth perhaps is fueling this machine too. It's part of it. Yeah, that's just my 10 cents worth. I don't know if it's got any bearing on what's happening in the chart too, but for me, when I look at this, it helps make more sense of that 5th house stuff, that 7th house stuff, and that 8th house stuff. It's all connected somehow.
Very cool. I like what you said about the past life stuff too, Antoinette, with the South Node in the 12th house in Leo. It looks like maybe in her past life, were you saying that in her past life she was seen, and so that's why it's challenging in this life to be seen? Is that what you were saying, or were you saying the opposite of that?
It's like, no, I think that in the past life she was not seen. She was hidden away. She was imprisoned for something that she said, because I see Mercury opposite Pluto. So it's like,
yes,
it's
that
all
makes
tied
sense.
into the 6th house. So she said something and it went against the grain.
Sounds like me.
or yeah. So now it's like saying, no, speak your truth. And there's something when I look at the sign, I also tend to see, because Gemini is a sign of the 3rd house and siblings, and then you have a planet in the 3rd house as well. And Mercury is like communicating. It's
something interesting you said. Sorry, I'm just building on what you're saying. In the last chart reading group we did, you have a connection with death when people pass. I remembered that, and it's sort of stayed in the back of my mind in this. I think that might tie in a bit with what you're saying, Antoinette.
Maybe. Yes. Because there's some kind of communication, because we were speaking about Mercury and Pluto.
Yeah.
And that Mercury, when we studied Mercury, he was going to inframundo and back up again. So he was channeling. So definitely there's something there.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a connection. And for me, Pluto is like the soul from the past life has come in now, wants to continue to communicate something important. And it has to do with beliefs or something religious or spiritual, because it's hold on, because I don't understand these kind of chat. I have to bring up my Placidus.
Yes, it's opposite Mercury in the 9th house.
I just realized that Pluto is Scorpio.
But Mercury is sextile. Yeah. So I think that there was something that had to do with the family's beliefs, because Jupiter rules the 4th house. And it's like the mother or the moon is far from home. There's something about moving or traveling or foreign cultures. There's some kind of pain of being separated.
That's crazy. I lived abroad with my ex-husband, for close to a decade, and my family had a very big issue with it.
Wow. Yeah. They're very clan.
It caused a lot of pain in my family, actually.
Was your ex military?
Sorry?
Was your ex military?
No.
Okay. I just thought about it because Mars also symbolizes the military sometimes.
Right.
But he did have issues with the justice system.
Listen,
Oh,
I
he
feel
lost.
he liked to drink.
Yes.
Because the Neptune is the ruler of the seventh house, so you have to look and see what aspects Neptune is making, and it makes it's opposing. So he was like escapist. He had his escapist things, and Mars in, like you were saying, Rasi, Mars in Pisces is, you know, you're not funding that. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. That was
Do
complicated.
you have children?
No kids.
Saturn.
Okay. Can I ask a question? If you don't want to answer, you don't have to. Have
Yeah.
you ever lost any children?
I have.
That's usually that Neptune in the fifth house. I noticed that. Um,
Oh.
okay, that was awkward. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
That's all right. That's okay. If she's comfortable answering, I think it's all relevant.
Okay.
Yeah. Just, I think something you said in the last group too, Gianna, that this is a safe space, and we've worked really hard to cultivate that. So, and I think one of the things that we want to do in this group is learn how to approach things like that, learn how to, and I think we've got enough strength and support in this group to nurture our way through through moments like this. And I think this is something that's really, really important, is the confidence to sit in the space of these sort of moments and then move through. Because I don't know if we've talked about this yet, but there's a yod sitting up there that's pointing right down to that fifth house placement too. So two quincunxes there and a semi-square. So again, this is, you know, I mean, Antoinette, you've nailed so many important parts on this chart. And it's all moving, it's all driving. There's no endings in this chart. It's a locomotive chart, and it moves and it moves and it moves through all these powerful experiences and all these different challenges. And again, too, like I was looking at before, that Chiron placement up there, who you are and who you are becoming. Pain is a driving force in that. And the way that you experience pain, and you're given these two very nurturing, very powerful planets sitting either side of that pain. You've got Jupiter and you've got the moon in such powerful dignity that they're going to usher you through these valley of death experiences, and they're going to move you forward. Because the one thing that we've established really early in this is that you learn the things that you need to do, and then you move on. You don't linger.
Right.
So each experience that you're having, no matter how powerful it is all part of the bigger driving direction, you know, that your soul's moving you towards. And that yod up there pointing right down to what's happening in that fifth house down there is saying that's where it's going to happen. You know, this is going to be catalytic. It's going to drive everything. But you've got this mystic rectangle. You're going to continue to have powerful experiences. That's what I'm seeing. But you're given all the support and all the tools that you need to keep moving and moving and getting stronger and stronger. You're inherently contradictory in so many ways in this chart when I look at the way your energy maps out. But you're able to explore the emotional realms. You're able to manifest that energy, and then you're able to write it all down, pragmatize it in the fifth house, and then move on. And I don't see you being stumped by anything. Not for long. Not for long. If you
You
can't
survived
find,
going through Capricorn.
yeah. If you can't,
That
sorry,
was
say
20 years of taking hits to Uranus, Neptune, and Saturn, and you survived. So
I got two questions. The first question is, have you suffered a lot of losses?
I would say I would say they're like very profound losses, but I wouldn't say they're like many.
But profound. Okay, because that's looking at your 12th house with the south node in it. I think usually that means losses. Well, because it's in the 12th house, it means losses, I thought. And then with the moon, have you been hurt by your mother? Do y'all have a chaotic relationship?
We have always had a lot of conflict,
Mm-hmm.
but I know it's not necessarily because she's doing anything. It's just this like roller coaster relationship. It's like I
Yeah, I
need
see
her,
that.
but at the same time we're like we clash constantly. But I feel like, so incredibly like it's like I need her, but at the same time I can't
Yeah,
stand.
yeah, I can see that with the Jupiter and plus with it opposing your Uranus and your Neptune. Um, okay. Was she your father figure?
She was like the head of household when my parents divorced at a young age.
Okay, and that's the moon and Saturn opposing I'm looking at, maybe. Okay, that's all the questions I had.
Something that Damien said that I found like so beautiful was pain, like just I kept equating what he was saying to being supported during pain. Like I've always felt I've gone through very challenging times, but like there's been some spiritual force that has supported. I felt very supported, even though I've been alone actually during those times. There's like this supportive external energy that has kind of carried me through those times. So
Gotcha.
I think
It's the way
that's
he breaks down.
yeah.
I'm sorry. The way he breaks down that middle, I love it. I'm still trying to get there, but it's something like he can look at it and see where the energy is going and what's the pressure point and all that. I'm still trying to get that, but you have a lot of triangles and rectangles, so I see a lot of psychic energy and stuff too. A lot of spiritual energy. Damon, can you break down that rectangle?
Well, look, we've touched on so many different parts of it, and when you look at every single one of those individual points by themselves on that rectangle, they all
Mm,
tell a story. But I think
mm,
I mean, if you look, if this chart was a heat map, I mean, it would be it would be incandescent, it would burn. But right in the center, me, I always look for where the energy's flowing in the chart. Normally, it's all flowing to one
mm,
point, but you've got this rectangle right in the middle. You've got all these other supporting actors that are part of it. You've got these T squares, you've got this trine, you've even got a yod that's hardwired into that, but they all plug
mm,
into this
mm,
rectangle. Um,
mm,
and the oppositions are an important part of it. Pain's an important part of it. The ability to manifest and be present in what's happening as well in that fifth house.
mhm,
It's all part of it too. Um,
mhm,
I think. And so they're all in their own way. They're feeding this pattern that's going through there, and in that way too. They with those oppositions being as pronounced as they are, you're always going to be moved into the fire, um, but you're always going to be supported as well. The energies you're never going to burn. The energy that you're going to experience when you're in that fire is going to flow. It's going to mitigate and keep moving. And as long as you're moving in the flow of whatever's happening, that's you'll be fine. And you've voiced that you're aware of that because in those darkest moments, and there's the potential for a lot of what do they call it, valley of death experiences in this. You've always felt supported, and the way this pattern works too, especially with all your personal planets moved out, like Antoinette pointed out right at the beginning, they've been moved to the top of the chart. Um, and right from the beginning too, we looked at your sign modalities versus your house modalities. Everything just plugs into itself the way that it's supposed to work. But you'll never be able to experience life on the same surface level as everybody else. And I think your experiences are going to drive you deeper and deeper with Pluto being the lead of this locomotive chart. Um, so even the malefics in your chart serve a role. They're retrograde, which means that the energy's nerfed down just enough. so that you've got the clarity to at least get the value of the experience, by looking at what's happening and being able to evaluate. And you're given that energy in the fifth house. Capricorn manifests. So whether you've got all this emotional energy that's burning inside you, that spirituality up there in the ninth house, the Pluto
Sorry.
experience is down there in the third. That's okay. In the third house, you will be able to record it and write it down. And I really like that Antoinette pointed out about writing. It may not be writing, but in a way, it's scribing. It's being able to take those experiences and present them on the page. Because, if you've ever done counseling before, one of the most powerful things of that is hearing your own voice say what's going on in your life, and that whole maelstrom in your head starts to break down and fall into place. And it suddenly becomes practical and manageable, something that you can work with and something that you can take with you. And with all that cardinal energy, you will take it with you. Once it's done, you won't linger. You won't dwell. You won't sulk. You'll feel the pain. You'll feel all the experiences, but you're supported while it's happening. And one of the best things about your chart is Pluto is the lead planet in your chart, because when you've got such a strong personal planet chart, it's very tempting to think that everything's happening to you, that you're a victim, that you're helpless against life. Life is just hitting you again and again and again. But when it's Pluto will force you to look deeper and look for the what's driving all of this. What am I learning from this? What level am I experiencing this? Is this emotional? Is this mental? Is this physical? Is this spiritual? So you strike me as still quite young, but the first time you turned up in one of our groups and you turned your video on, you convey strength to me. I see strength. And when I look at this chart, it falls into place. You know what I mean? I don't know if that answers your question, Crystal, but for me, it's just paraphrases what I'm seeing in this pattern.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. How are we doing, Gianna? Are we doing okay? Oh, she's frozen.
Frozen.
How do you guys think we're doing?
Well, that's not a good sign, Gianna. No, I'm joking. I think everybody's doing pretty good.
No, sometimes you get kicked out and you come back. Here she is.
Sorry, I had to keep
right.
moving. My internet. I think
That's
we should.
immutable.
Maybe you're being protected, Gianna.
My
Wow,
Jupiter.
that is my mutable energy because I'm always
Absolutely.
moving.
When you said
understand.
that, Damien, you said she's like protected or feel protected, and I looked at the Jupiter, the rule of the fourth house, and I said it must be the ancestors, because I
Could
think
be.
Sagittarius has a lot to do with that kind of energy. So, and it's like a benevolent planet, and it's always there with you. And there must have been, because Chiron has to do with pain of the ancestors and the females and the woman and the family. So there's something there that you're going to heal. And I like to see Pluto making a trine to all of that. So there's something in the family that needs to be said, or you need to talk, profoundly about the pain and the mother, the situation with females and mothers, like, who else in the family was in this situation in the fifth house, because that's a loaded fifth house. And it's like a lot of and everything I noticed also, Damien, that Saturn going to Pluto, all of it is retrograde. So all of it is like,
exactly. So even like I was saying, all those malefics, those ones that have a lot of hitting power, that's turned down just enough. You know what I mean? So it's a very, very curated chart from that point of view. I love it. Absolutely love it. From a scientist's point of view, standing dispassionately back and looking at it, I don't know if I'd have the strength to live it, but it's a beautiful chart, and that as long as you keep moving, you will never burn. That's what it's saying. As long as whether that's mentally, emotionally, physically, or spiritually, movement and change are a part of the whole thing. And there's enough succeedant energy in that chart to mean you'll hold on to the things that matter the most. They're there by design. They're there as your birthright. They won't go away. So, yeah. Sorry,
I
when
have
you
a
dropped
question
off,
for you.
I just want to check in before we go, Gianna. Just when you dropped off, one question asked, "How are we doing so far? Are you comfortable with the process? Are we, yeah,
Yeah, I definitely feel like you're all hitting points that are very truthful and especially regarding, just like the pain throughout life and the experiences, but the support there. The writing piece is huge because I've been trying to work through how to write about my experiences and help other women who have gone through similar situations. And also the downloads that I feel I receive spiritually have all been telling me I'm healing generational trauma within my family throughout the female lineage because, from what I've experienced in my partnership. And so these are all like kind of just affirming to me what I think I kind of knew, but wanted to hear as well.
You
that's good.
came in for this.
I think
Sorry, say that again. It broke up.
No, I think it's like, as Damien said before we started, you made a pact, or you came in specifically to have these experiences so that you could share it with others, which is your North Node in Aquarius. And because it's like, when I say ear on the 6th house, I always think about mental health, and sharing with groups of people about what your life experience has been, and especially with Gemini in the 10th house, like give a voice to the underworld in a certain way, like give a voice to these women, because there's a sextile to Cancer as well from Gemini. It's like all the female ancestors want you to do this, have come in and ask you to do this. And so it gives you a powerful voice to become an orator, to even, speak about these things. Because it's coming from a deep place.
I kind of feel like that's where that Earth trine also fits in, because with you having a lot of cardinal immutable energy, it's easy to start and stop, but it's harder to sustain it, to keep things going. So maybe this is also your signal to keep doing what you're doing, especially when it comes to the writing. You have more than enough succeeding planets to make that happen. So it's just, I think that's probably part of your focus as well, is just trying to stay on task. And it sounds like this is the task that's meant for you.
That's really good. Yeah, I think that that anchors it, Razi, really nice.
Yeah, that's true, Rosie, because the earth element is like manifest the ideas into reality, into being. I saw that too. Yeah. Like
I
walk
feel
the talk.
yeah, I feel like too, when I said before, the first time I saw you turn up in video, I think my first impression of you was that Earth trine. That's what I saw. That's really strong. From an astrologer point of view, I think one of the most interesting takeaways today for me is how we interpret Chiron. In many ways, we tend to simplify Chiron. We look at it as a point of pain on the chart, or the expectation of pain and things like this. But in this particular chart, we see pain as fuel for a very powerful machine. It serves a purpose. It's purpose driven. And for me, that was a really interesting takeaway from this session too. To see it nurtured and supported by two such powerful planets, up there in the 11th house. That for me was a real eye opener, and I thought that was a really amazing takeaway. So, and again, too, I think it's one of the points of doing this planets workshop is being able to look at these points on the chart and just reevaluate them with different eyes and things like that. And that's a gift you brought to the group today. I think Chiron, how Chiron is such a fundamental part of this whole engine. Was a real gift, I think, for today's group too. So I just thought I'd put that out there. So where have we landed right now? I think we're at a really, really good point. With some of these other charts that we're looking at too, we see some sort of promised lands in the chart too, where, everything seems to be moving and things like that. I don't feel it in this chart, not the same way. In a way, I think the promised land is the movement. It's the journey. It's the strength. It's a difficult road. It's a tough road, but it's a road where you're carried. You're not carried. You are doing the work, but you're being supported and you're being nurtured while you're doing it, which is really, really important. And you're aware of it, which protects you from so much. I think mentally and emotionally, especially, here in the practical physical world. So my feeling is, with all that cardinal immutable energy, that your journey, even when it ends in this lifetime, is probably going to resume in the next, but you'll be more efficient, you'll be stronger, a much stronger version of yourself, and you'll be moving forward. But what are other people's feelings here? Where do you feel she's moving towards on this chart? Or does it feel the same?
I was thinking about the transits. To see that Jupiter, which is the ruler of the 4th house, is going through the 10th house. So it's bringing, opening up the sun, and has to do with the time for her to shine. Where she's going, I'm interested to because she's going to have a Jupiter return next year, and that's starting a new cycle as well. And then, I was just looking at the transits. I really don't know how to see where she's going if I don't look at that.
It's like
So
most of her is either in the 9th house or the 5th house. Like that's where it seems like those are the points for me. It's like that's where my eye keeps going every time I look at the chart. It's either the 5th house, the 9th house, or the 11th house.
Yes, that's where the big thing is, and the moon is taking all of that. Those oppositions. Yeah.
So last year when Jupiter moved into Taurus was when I began a coaching certification program. And I then started taking my astrology education much more seriously. I think I bought my first course from Damien last year, maybe last May or something, maybe last April. And what else happened? I think the Jupiter kind of bringing to light activating my 9th house. And then also with my the Mars Scorpio conjunction, I think it was last year in my 3rd house. Or Mars and Scorpio. So I forget what transit it was, but something last October when Mars was transiting my 3rd house. That's when I started to begin more serious writing for my astrology, and also started my website for coaching. Started building that. Still not launched yet, but because you know how
Website, 3rd house.
I start and stop a lot.
Good.
Start and stop it.
Mars activates. Sure.
Just a little thing, but remember I call it shameless self-promotion Tuesday, but I think Michaelin calls it toot your own horn Tuesday. If you've got anything like that, put it out there. When you're talking about some of these things that you're doing, I mean, I'm thinking of other people in the group who'd be potential allies for you going through this journey. At the very least, Michelle, reach out to Michelle. She's a blogger. She's very strong and with a lot of the things we've talked about today. You know, she's very, very connected with all of that stuff. But, you know, share your journey. Your home, you know, that private energy of Cancer's all stuck out there in the 11th house right now. Your home is right out in the public eye. You know, it's around other people. It's in communities. It's in groups. That's where you're going to thrive. That's where you're going to be nurtured, you know. So, and here's a nice little pocket, safe little pocket of the universe out there. You know, you can set up sticks and share your content too, you know, because we'll all support you best we can, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I always thought my South Node in the 12th house though kept me so comfortable, like hiding though. Because I tend to hide myself and also hide the things that I'm doing. I don't know why, but I think it's also my Chiron in the 11th house, like
Yeah.
this insecurity maybe around sharing with groups.
Yeah. You know, out of all the signs of the zodiac, Leo sucks the most at hiding. So your South Node in the 12th house in Leo. It's probably the last joke from your soul. You know, when you wrote this chart, there was probably a clause, you know, they could see, oh yeah, she might hide in this lifetime. Let's stick Leo there. So, good luck with that. You know? My apologies to any Leos out there I may have offended, but you know it's true.
It's all right. It's not offensive. It is weird because my whole Leo stellium is in the 12th house. I don't know how that happened. It's like I want to get out there, but I'm behind the scenes. But do they see me? I don't want them to see me. It's like it's a bit confusion.
We're not seeing her now.
Man. Yeah, I just found out that I had my birth timing wrong the whole time. I thought I was born at 7:03, but it was 7:13.
Wow.
So my chart didn't change much. It just put my Jupiter in the 12th house. My Jupiter was in the first house. And I said, okay, I'm sorry to say this, but that's what kept me out of jail all them years. Because I was wild when I was younger, but I never went to jail. I never had a felony or anything. So I guess my sun, my Venus, and my Jupiter really helped that out. I think everybody I grew up with got felonies and stuff but me. But I was good, you know, just bad a little bit. Good girl gone bad, I think.
There's nothing wrong with that. Just it was all a curated experience. Crystal, it's supposed to happen that way, you know. You
Man.
But
I'm really driven to open up a halfway house, like working in prisons, it all just made sense when I seen the real time I was born. I said, okay, but so I'll throw that out there.
Wonderful. Can see you doing it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I think we've landed in a nice point now. I think we're, yeah, I think we've really given this a solid session. I think this is a really amazing session that we've had. I'm really, really, God, I'm tired. I know that. It's taken a lot out of me.
I'm just getting started.
Yep. I think we're going to have to do Crystal's chart at some point.
I think we're going to have to do all of our charts.
I think so. I think so. I know I'm going to need a good night's sleep before we unpack that one.
Funny, yeah.
Does anybody want to add any words at the end here, just to wrap up today? Anybody got any final thoughts or anything they want to share with Gianna?
It's okay to put yourself out there. You can put yourself out there because you are supported and you are protected, and you Jupiter is strong in your chart. So whenever you're ready to put yourself out there, go for it. People will embrace you. It'll be a good experience. You'll see.
I can't wait to read your book whenever you put it out.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hopefully soon.
Yeah, Mercury in the 9th house is about publishing, so you gotta do it.
Yeah.
I wonder if you can balance that earth, air, and water energy. Like, I don't know if you feel like maybe conflicted sometimes, like your thinking, your emotions, and your logic, if it's not all on the same page.
All the time.
Yeah, I think you can balance that out. It's just a lot of that going on.
I was
I
just
don't really have
wondering.
no thought.
Sorry. I'll be quiet.
Go for it, Rowan.
I was just wondering if the Chiron in that house is also a place for healing. I know we talked about pain, but I was also wondering if it's a place for healing.
You know, one of the things with Chiron is that you're always supposed to check back in. There's the expectation of that, of pain. It's like when you get a wound, like a wound on your hand, for example, you keep touching it to see if it still hurts. You know what I mean? And that's how Chiron's supposed to work. You're supposed to keep going back and checking to see if it still hurts until it stops hurting. Because it's a wound that will not heal about itself, will not heal by itself. Chiron, the centaur, could heal anybody except himself. So it's attached to a natural process. There's a natural healing process that's attached. You've got it in Cancer. You're surrounded by two very nurturing, very supportive planets. Everything for you will heal. Everything for you will heal while it's supported by that. You've just got to keep checking in, and I like that about your chart. And I think that's why it's in opposition to that Capricorn energy down there in the 5th house, because you will scribe your journey as you're going through it. You know what I mean? You'll manifest it, and especially when you got a lot of water on a chart, everything tends to blend in together. You know what I mean? And one type of pain merges in with another, and it all feels like the same pain when it's not. But you've got enough Capricorn energy over there in your chart to be able to discriminate and distinguish between types of pain. So I don't know how, depending on your journey yourself, I think intuitively inside yourself you'll know, but you need to keep checking back in on your pain to see if it is still pain, if that injury is still there, especially at the speed that you move to. It will be good for you because it'll lighten the baggage you're carrying behind you while you're moving through life. I see so much practicality and intention in your chart. You got a lot of water and it's all water and earth in that mystic rectangle, but that Gemini, that earth, that air energy right at the top of your chart's there for a purpose. You know what I mean? And you've got just enough of that to make sure that you're able to take a step back and just at an intellectual level work out what's happening in the big picture. And Gemini's so efficient at it. It'll whatever speed you're traveling at, it'll match without problem. Does that answer your question, Rowan, from a point of healing?
Thank you.
Yeah, it is absolutely about healing, and thank you, because Chiron's been such an important part of this. I feel for me today's reading, that being able to drop that final note in there and say that the whole purpose of Chiron is to heal, is self-healing. You just got to keep checking back in, because you won't be able to heal yourself. You'll heal on the road. You'll heal through the journey, and your journey's set, and you're traveling and you're moving down that road quickly. So just keep checking in on your pain. It's okay. It is healing. Yeah.
That's so good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, she's a healer. Chiron beside the moon is like a healer, a female, like a shaman. And then you have to take that to the 6th house with your North Node and help heal others. I have a question for you, because I see that I remember things that I read, and I know that the 11th house is not easy. It's complicated because it's the house of Aquarius. And it has to do with, from what we see here, she may have had something in childhood, because the 5th house is childhood, right? So it's like an emotional shock or something having to do with a loss or a childhood that had a lot to do with changes that happened on an external level that were not in her control because of it being one of these planets here. But I just found that interesting, that the Chiron is in the 11th, and then she's being asked to work as part of her everyday routine, her job, to work and heal people in the 6th house, because it's a house of health, but it's like mental health also because of Uranus. Like she can do that, or help children, and through your voice, speaking to people and listening to people. That's what I thought. But then I just put things together. I don't know if you can do that. It seems illegal. Don't know. But anyway.
Do you see anything like with the father in my childhood with Saturn in that house?
That he was strict, and you had a lot of responsibility. You didn't get to have a childhood. You had to be responsible, and you were asked to be an adult from a very young age. Maybe that's what I see. Saturn in the fifth is like, and there was no time for, or maybe you had to prepare for your future career instead of having a hobby, or your hobby was work, or it's like, the father. Your father was important. He was prominent, or he wanted you to become someone prominent, or like a politician almost. It's like they're giving me that kind of energy, But yeah, that's what he would have wanted. And yeah, that's about the father. That's what I think is like. And Saturn in the fifth in Capricorn is the family structure. Like children must work hard, kind of thing.
Very, very accurate. I'm the eldest also of 4 in total
So you
siblings.
would have had expectations on you from a young age.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of the time you see Capricorn in the fifth, Saturn in the fifth. Someone has to grow up quickly, like Antoinette said. Sometimes it's people who are raised by their grandparents. It's all that. So it's interesting to see how Neptune and Uranus fit into that picture too. But that Saturn in itself tells a story, and it's in direct opposition to your moon up there in the 11th house. So yeah.
I wanted to share something with the group just so that everybody could think about it. I read once and I found it to be true for me. The degree of your sun, that there may have been something important that happened in your life at that certain degree. I also have sun at 6 degrees. You were very Rasi.
Well, I remember seeing, I think I might have seen the same thing you did, because when I saw it and I looked at my son, because my son was at 16 degrees, and I was like, what was happening when I was 16? Oh, I remember what happened when I was 16. My folks got divorced.
Hold
Listen,
on, can you
look
repeat
about
that?
I was saying, my son in my chart was at 16 degrees. So when I saw that post, I think I might have seen the same thing that Antoinette saw. And I was like, well, what happened when I was 16? And I thought about it, and I was like, I think that was like around the time that my parents were going through their divorce.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the degree of your sun
And
can mean something important.
Mm-hmm.
yes, it's
It's
something for all of us to think about.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because
I'm about to
I
check
also
mine.
have the sun at 6 degrees, and I lost my father at 6 when I was 6.
Wow.
and then
So it's
10th
there's
house also
something.
can represent your father in modern astrology. I know in mine, my son is in the 7th house, and that also represents partnerships, even though it wasn't my partnership, it was my parents' partnership.
Wow.
Right.
Oh, I
Just
like
something to
that.
think about, interesting to investigate, because we see 6 degrees, like at 6 years old, something, that may have been important. So what I did is I went back to look at the transits of when I was 6. And I saw, that's when Saturn was conjunct my Venus. I lost my father.
Antoinette,
So
would
there
you
was some
write
transit.
a short post and put that in the Modern Astrology group, Facebook group?
Sure.
Just write a short post explaining that and throw that one out there. I'm curious to see what comes back.
Okay, and I'll see if I can find the original thing,
Yeah,
because it's out
yeah.
there, Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And I also found something about the mystic triangle, which I'll post as well. It doesn't
Okay,
make
great.
sense talking about it here. You have to read it, because
Sure.
it's very interesting too, because I don't know anything about the mystic triangle. And I said, let me read something. And
Yeah.
it was very, very interesting. So I'll put it out when you put out the video. Yeah, I'll definitely look for that, because Rasi has seen it too. And
It is
it's
interesting.
true.
And I'm interested to hear
Yeah.
other people's stories on that too. So